My name is Hal Cohen. I'm Executive Director of Capstone Community Action. Capstone Community Action is a community action agency, one of 5 in the state. We do programs like Head Start, community economic development, emergency services, weatherization, transportation. There's a lot of different programs for low-income families. And it's my pleasure to host you today for this event, press conference. And I'd like to introduce Paul Burns from VPER, who's going to kind of lead this event. Paul.
Thank you, Hal. And let's say thanks again to Hal and to Capstone for hosting us here today. It's a real pleasure to be in this beautiful space and to have all of you joining us for this exciting event. As you know, climate change is kind of in the news today at the highest possible levels. We have the president negotiating deals with China. And here in Vermont, we're launching what we think is going to be one of the most exciting campaigns ever to grapple with this problem of global warming, what we can do about this problem in this state. So we are tremendously excited to be here to kick things off. Again, my name is Paul Burns. I'm the Executive Director of VPER, the Vermont Public Interest Research Group. And my organization is one of a number of different groups that have been meeting over the course of the last year or so to try to determine what exactly a place like Vermont, a state like Vermont, can do to tackle the problem of global warming. We each have our own reasons for being engaged in this fight. And we all know that it won't be easy. But speaking personally, I can tell you that there is no issue more important to me than trying to create a livable planet for my 3-year-old son, Brayden. You will hear many other compelling messages from folks who are speaking today about what brings them to this issue. But I want to just take a moment to set the stage for you, what you're going to hear in the next few minutes. We're kicking off today a really important campaign, as I mentioned. It's called Energy Independent Vermont. If you didn't get that already. We spent some time branding this campaign. We have really neat t-shirts and banners and stickers and other materials that are even more important, like the brochure here, and you'll be seeing more and more information about this. I want to note the various coalition partners who are part of this effort: 350 Vermont, Capstone, and the other CAP agencies around the state who have also signed on to this effort, which we greatly appreciate. Conservation Law Foundation and Sandy Levine is here. The Gund Institute for Ecological Economics, you're going to hear from Professor John Erickson in a moment. Sierra Club Vermont, and Rob is here, and others are here from Sierra Club, which we appreciate. Vermont Businesses for Social Responsibility, Andrea Cohen is here. Thank you, Andrea, and the many members of VBSR as well. Vermont Conservation Voters, Lauren Pearl, I know is over here. Vermont Energy Investment Corp, and we've got a statement from Scott Johnstone in the packet. George Twigg is way in the back as well. Vermont Natural Resources Council, Joey Miller you're going to hear from in just a moment, and obviously VPER. This is a growing list of organizations that are part of this coalition, and so again, we're very pleased to be joined by all of them. The business leaders, the low-income advocates, the academic professionals in this area, as well as the environmentalists that make up Energy Independent Vermont, share a common vision for where we should be going as we grapple with this issue of climate change. We want to reduce Vermont's carbon emissions that contribute to global warming. We want to do it in a way that benefits the state economically. And we want to do it in a way that is equitable for all Vermonters. Those are kind of the 3 overriding principles. I'm going to briefly describe our plan and let several of our partners come up and speak. And I apologize in advance that it's maybe a little bit longer than our normal press conference, but we have a lot of folks who have something useful to say. Now, if you ask an economist what's the most efficient way to address climate change, chances are you're going to hear they will recommend putting a price on carbon pollution. And that, by the way, is true regardless of the political persuasion of the economists. For too long, we've allowed fossil fuel companies to put their waste into our atmosphere for free. So we want to start a statewide conversation today about what a carbon pollution tax would look like in Vermont. And I'll tell you right now, we all understand that it would be better to have this dealt with at the federal level. We would love to see Congress take that on. None of us believes that is likely to happen in the very near future. So there are 2 fundamental questions to consider when you're talking about carbon pollution tax policy. The first is, where does the money come from? And the second is, how will that money be used? The model that we produced assumes that there will be an assessment on carbon pollution applied to fossil fuels, exempting electricity, and electricity is covered elsewhere. But this applies to fossil fuel pollution. All the revenue raised will be returned to Vermonters and Vermont businesses as either a tax cut, a check from the state, or financial incentives to promote alternatives to fossil fuels like weatherization or more fuel-efficient vehicles, for instance. And of course, the more that Vermonters take advantage of those incentives to reduce their reliance on fossil fuels, the more money they will save, the more money that they'll keep in their pockets. And finally, I want to stress how important it is to every member of our coalition that we address the concerns of low-income Vermonters and ensure that they are able to fully participate in the incentives that will be provided under this program. And you'll hear a little bit more about that shortly. So again, it's our idea that this was the basic concept that we were talking about. For a carbon pollution tax in Vermont, we wanted to road test it, and so we went out and hired the economic modeling firm that kind of created the model used by the state of Vermont, Remy, and you'll hear more about them in just a moment. And we asked them to determine what would such a policy mean for the state? What would it mean for our global warming pollution? What would it mean for our economy? What would it mean for jobs? And we're happy to share those results with you today. I believe that this policy is essential in order for Vermont to meet its long-term clean energy and climate goals. We have a responsibility to act. And it's not a question of if, but how and when this policy will be implemented here. Today, we're happy to launch that conversation. And now, I would like to introduce Jen Kimmich from The Alchemist, who's one of the businesses that is supporting our efforts in this campaign. Jen.